Welcome to this edition of Valley Black Talk Radio. Today is October 19th, 2014. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, and I'm here with, of course, our hosts, Jewel Riversmith and Mel Sanders, and we also have a special guest that we're going to be telling you about shortly here in the studio. Almost concluding our busy weekend, right, Mel? Because we have our special guest that's in the studio, Brian Pacheco. Welcome, Brian Pacheco.
Welcome.
Yay!
All right.
We're going to give cheers, right?
Yes.
Woody's clapping in the background, just so you know. Our engineer, he's lively, and we also have Brian live on Valley Black Talk Radio tonight because we're going to be talking about the Fresno County Supervisor position and also about Brian himself because we want to know the personal. I mean, you've got that great ambience on TV, by the way.
Thank you.
And so we want to know more about you, your background, and who you are. And so we want to be able to take that opportunity in Valley Black Talk Radio to do that. And so I want to first give the audience a little intro about Brian. Gosh, he seems so modest, but he has a very strong background in family. It's obvious that family and community is important to Brian. He's a fourth generation family farmer and dairyman in Fresno County. His great-grandfather began dairying in the early 1900s, and that is purely family dedication there. Brian graduated from Kern High School, attended University of California, Davis, where he earned a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics. Definitely something we need here in the Valley, those expertise. He was also the commencement speaker at his college graduation, as a recipient of the Award of Distinction for the UC Davis College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences. And he was, the list goes on, all the great things that he has done in the community. But most important, he was elected member of the Kern Unified School Board of Trustees, which means he knows how it's run. When we were talking about all the school board stuff
policy
last week, the
issues.
politics
Right.
and policy issues, which is what we need, someone that knows about policy. He's also a strong advocate of public education, excellence in our local schools. He also serves as a member of the board of directors of the Community Regional Medical Center and the Agency on Aging Foundation. He's also the past president of the Fresno County Farm Bureau and member of numerous community organizations, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, that's very important. And so he's also part of the Biola and Kern Chambers of Commerce. And of course, he has a lovely wife, we've seen her, and 3 children. And so that's just a little bit of background about Brian as far as the family ethic and the family values, which I'm sure you value and people see it in the communities that you serve, especially our community.
Yes, I've donated most of my adult life and just giving back to our community and helping. I was really grateful as a person from a small town to get the education that I received that allowed me to go on to a major university. And what I like to say is at that time, when I graduated from high school in 1986, Kern had 5,000 people of our entire town.
Wow.
And I went to a university 4 times the population of my hometown.
Wow.
So that was a pretty daunting
That was a big
task.
step up,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You had to be brave to be able to do that.
I went
right?
from a class of 30 to a class of 300, and it was just a great experience, but I was always grateful for the education that I received in my town that led me to go on and further my education and my career goals.
And so being on like the Kern Unified, the board, if you can tell us a little bit about that, some of the things that you had to do and issues that you had to take care of.
Well, sure. One of the first things I did when I came back from college, I looked and I thought, well, how could I get involved in my community? And because of my commitment and my gratitude for what the Kern Unified School District did to me, I thought one of the ways that I could best help is to provide that same level of education to the other people in our town, because Kern is generally a poorer town. We're pretty diverse, and people need it. A lot of people with means, they move out and they come to the big city of Fresno, or they move to Clovis, and I thought, I'm a 4th generation here. It was great to me, and I want to provide that same other opportunity for other people. So in 2002, I ran for the school board.
Okay.
I ran against an incumbent, and I was fortunate enough that I won that seat. What I didn't know when I won that seat is Kern was in severe financial trouble. And in those times, there were 3 districts that were in trouble. Fresno Unified, West Fresno, and Kern Unified. Now, Fresno Unified pulled itself out. We know what happened to West Fresno. They went into bankruptcy, and Kern was on that verge. So what I did is I applied what I had learned in my college with degree. In addition, I had served as a bank director for 9 years, and so I knew what a balance sheet was supposed to look like, in addition to running my own business. So you applied those concepts to the public institution, and within 2 years, we got that district back on track.
Wow.
And one of the most daunting tasks that I face is after 4 months of being elected, every March 15th, they have what's called the pink slip bill. For those in education, those teachers know that by March 15th, you're notified if you're going to be brought on for the next school year or not. And Kerman had 300 teachers. And at that time, at that board meeting, 3 months on the job, our superintendent came to the board and had issued 82 pink slips. And that is just unacceptable to do. And then, not only does it disrupt people's lives, it puts them uncertainty. It
keeps you on edge.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of stress, and it never came to that many, but it's just an unnecessary evil that we just didn't need to do that. And I vowed that I would not let that happen again, and I'm very proud that after 2 years, we strengthened the budget, and now Kerman Unified is one of the highest reserve districts in the entire county. And we have harmony amongst our labor groups now. The Kerman Unified Teacher Association, the California School Employees Association. After a few years of getting to know me, we were fair, equitable, and again with the unions, the greatest thing that I think unions and it's all people want is just the amount of respect.
Right.
And I think once you show that respect and you're willing to listen and work with them, and we were able to do great things. Our labor situation in the Kerman district's been really, really good, and I'm very proud. And as I run for supervisor now, there's not much that the two labor groups do for me, but they have both endorsed me in this as just an act of good faith that, hey, you did a good job and we wish you well. And I'm really proud of that.
And speaking of being proud of that accomplishment, as you move now into this Fresno County Supervisor position, why is it that you said, I want to try on that challenge? As we were talking in the break, you're like, campaign's not the most fun. Right? No,
yeah, you got to come in with your eyes wide open, and I think it's kind of like going to college. Until you really walk in those shoes, you really don't know what you're getting in for. And I had been on a lot of campaigns. When I was in college, I had the great fortune of working at the state capitol for 4 years, and that's where I really developed my call for public service and see how the laws that they make up there really affect us back here. And from that point on, that's when I knew I wanted to get involved. And so when Supervisor Larson, after 12 years of service, he's 82 years old, he decided to step down. I thought one of the next things that I could do to help my community is run for the County Board of Supervisors, because I think local government impacts us more greatly than our, the state and even the federal and congressional level of service. So I thought the next step for me is I want to do the County Board of Supervisors and help if I can improve the county of Fresno.
And where would be those district lines of people that are looking at a map of the area that you would service, would you say?
Well, District 1 is mainly considered West Fresno. It's the farming and agricultural communities. It's generally speaking, it's the 99 freeway, but it's several blocks just east of that. And the Santa Fe Railroad Tracks is actually the dividing line where it intersects with Freeway 99 till the 99 intersects with Freeway 41.
Okay.
And that's how you pick up the city of Easton up until it's North Avenue, and then North Avenue to the McMullen grade, and McMullen grade goes and picks up another road. I can't remember the street right now, but that street goes all the way out into the I-5 corridor, and that's the dividing line between Districts 1 and District 4.
And that's a big area.
Oh, it's huge. Absolutely. It's the largest area of the county, and it's generally the #1 ag section of the county government.
And with such a large area, what will be the key challenges that this area already has that you hope to help rectify and help to change?
Well, the big issue for me and affecting all the residents of Fresno County is water, because primarily agriculture is the primary revenue source of this district. So water is securing enough water and working with our local elected officials to make sure we have an adequate water supply, and the farmers have what they have in terms of the farm workers and all those related service industries. But the irony of it is while we generally think of it as an ag district, 60% of the voting population in this district actually live within the city limits of Fresno.
Oh,
it incorporates, the West Fresno, the center of Fresno, and North Fresno on the western fringe. So, so it's all people. It's very important that we're going to affect everyone's lives in this issue.
Water's already affecting us. I mean, the drought, Jewel, we've talked about this time and time again. And I don't know what could possibly be a solution.
I don't know, but I am baffled as to how to move forward. As a Fresnan, as a Central Valley resident, I go to the store, I get my oranges,
Yeah.
my strawberries, my lettuce, and I feel proud every time, because that's who we are. But as a citizen, I say to myself, if you look at the history of the Central Valley, agriculture might not have been a good decision from the very beginning.
Oh no, we're farming in the desert. There's no question
No
about
question.
that. And
Okay.
the only reason we are allowed to do that is because we have in the 1960s and things is the dams and the storage was built, and without irrigation we would not be farming in this region, because as what we're learning now, what we need in agriculture is surface water, and surface water comes from the rains and what we back behind the dams. And then after you have that surface water, you need conveyance, which is our irrigation ditches and things that will go to put the water out. And
Well, excuse
Sure,
me for interrupting,
sure.
but here's my thing. California, the West, droughts are not new to us.
Yes.
They're like earthquakes. They come along every so often when we're not paying attention, but they're not a new thing. So, during the 30s and the 40s, during the Dust Bowl years, farmers were paid not to work their land. And a lot of people just simply left the heartland and went to do other things. I'm wondering if it's not time to make some of those kind of decisions now, rather than having the farmers pitted against the people who, not purposely pitted against them, of course, but just, I look and I say, maybe we need to not have so much agriculture here. But then how do you decide whose fourth generation family agriculture business goes away and whose doesn't? But we have to do something, because this argument back and forth, we need more water. Yeah, well, I want to be able to water my lawn and drink and take a 10-minute shower. How are we going to solve that?
Again, I think with Prop 1 is a part of the solution to that, because our system was built for half the current population that we're serving now. And we need to upgrade our infrastructure system in order to provide those services and those vital resources we need. But I would absolutely agree with you. While we relied on agriculture in the past, and it is our #1 engine for this county, we do need to diversify our economy and do other things to provide those types of jobs so that maybe we're not so dependent upon agriculture. And even the farms, it's hard to believe, but the farms are doing that as we speak now. In the past, they would farm all row crops. Well, when row crops weren't making any money, like for you said, the programs and different things, they diversified their farm into other crops. And we need to take that same kind of approach to the county and do that to the county, and not necessarily rely so much on ag. We can't get away from it, but it's a transition period on how you go about doing that. But I would agree with you that we need to diversify our entire economy to help all of the people and to get those secure jobs. But I do believe it's not going to happen overnight, and ag is such a vital role, and it's so dominant in this area. It's going to take several years, if not decades, before something like that happens.
Okay. Well, and of course, the other reason ag is so popular here is we may not have had the water, but we had great soil.
Oh, yes.
Right?
And
So,
the climate,
we don't want
yeah,
it to go away,
yeah.
because we do have soil, great soil for agriculture.
And we're so spoiled here in Fresno County that we don't even realize it, because we live it. And sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. But there's over 350 crops that are grown in Fresno County alone that you can't find anywhere else in the world. And once you put asphalt over that ground and do it, you're done. And it's hard to believe, as I served as a Fresno County Farm Bureau president and as a young boy, do you know what the #1 ag county used to be in the state of California?
Wait, #1 ag county
Yes.
in the state of California.
Several
Used to
years
be
ago, 20, 40 years ago.
San Joaquin.
No, it was Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. You know where Los Angeles is now on the total spectrum of ag commodities?
Oh, at the very, very, very bottom.
And I don't know if they have any at all.
Yeah.
It's all asphalt houses and Disneyland.
Yeah.
So hopefully Fresno doesn't ever turn into that one day, because once it's gone, we'll never get it back.
Okay,
Yeah.
but there are Southern California, like Ojai, and there are cities
yes.
where there's
Oh,
still
yes.
agriculture,
Oh,
just
yes.
not nearly what it used to be.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I know that from brothers and sisters.
Good job. Yeah.
Brian, you talk about you want Fresno to be safer and also business friendly. What does that look like to you?
Well, in terms of safer, I'm very proud that I have the significant number of law enforcement endorsements in this race. I've been endorsed by Sheriff Margaret Mims, and for the first time in a lot of years, her two predecessors, Sheriff Richard Pierce and Sheriff Steve McGarren, have also endorsed me in this race, as well as the Fresno deputy sheriffs, the Fresno Sergeant Association, the Fresno prosecutors, the Fresno DA investigators. I have a whole long list of law enforcement because they know I recognize the need for law enforcement in this area, and I'm highly committed to that. You know, similar to the Kern Unified School District, all governments, and even like our households on a small scale, it's all derived from the budget. So we need to get our financial house in order, and once we do that, then we can expand those services that we need. And one of the key services that everyone, it doesn't matter if we're here in the studio tonight or back in our homes in the country or in the inner cities of Fresno, we want to feel safe in our homes. And the one way to do that is to make sure we have enough of the sheriff and police officers, as well as the firemen, because when our house is on fire, you want that call coming quick. So all of that really needs to be funded, and so that's one of my top priorities, is to make sure that law enforcement has those resources they need to adequately do their job. And that's just a strong commitment that I have to doing that, and I think those agencies have recognized that and are supporting me in this race because they know I have a proven track record of getting things done. Financial management is one of my areas of expertise, and I'm committed to making sure that we maximize all of our resources in the county so that they have the resources that they need in order to do their job.
And especially when we're talking about businesses being business friendly,
Yes.
I can see how. What do you see that a lot of the business owners see as a challenge here in the valley, opening up a business, especially your small business owners?
Well, it's like what your co-host has said earlier. It's just we're so dependent on ag, is they're looking for other things to do. And what a group of businesses did is they made this document called Creating Prosperity.
Okay.
And what that document was a blueprint of how not only the county but the city of Fresno can help to improve our business climate. And there's a series of steps that they do recommend that would help all businesses and help to diversify all of our businesses so that people can get those good jobs and the companies can come in and create those jobs that the people need. And it's a wide range of companies that they recommend to come in. It's not only, but some of them are related to ag, like such as food distribution, but there's things as financial sector, and development and all kind of those aspects, and they want to have several steps to help expedite the process. And like I said, I would give Fresno County and the Fresno City credit. They've implemented a lot of those steps, but we just need to keep that process moving forward.
Right. And I want to let people know you are listening to Valley Black Talk Radio here on 1680 AM KGED. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, one of the hosts this evening, along with Jewel Riversmith and Mel Sanders. And we are talking to Brian Pacheco, having a lively conversation, by the way. Very dynamic and knows his stuff. I like that we actually finally have a candidate that is enterprising, because I think it's very important for small businesses to know that you're basically in their corner. So it's more than just the economic of what's happening in Fresno, but also basic economics 101. Right?
And you know what I learned in school too is one of the take-home messages that I got, and it stuck through me throughout my life, is the smartest CEO surrounds himself with smarter people.
Right.
So if I'm fortunate enough to be elected in this, is I don't have all the answers, but I'm smart enough that I can go out and get those people, and they could help me and develop the board as to what we need to get the solutions that the people need.
Sure.
And what I've learned going over the last 13 months of campaigning, it's a diverse district with a lot of diverse needs, and there's different needs in North Fresno than there are in West Fresno, that there are in the small towns of Mendota, Fireball, San Joaquin, Tranquility. Everyone has their own individual needs and wants, and we just need to get together and collaborate so that we can solve the greater of the people's problems.
Right. And Jewel, I don't know if you wanted to
Well,
comment.
just, I think Fresno needs a little PR campaign though.
Oh, yeah.
Because, when the Numi plant closed, I think there was some talk of, I think that there was some hope that maybe the Tesla plant or whatever was going to go in there. I know they were talking about that long before Numi closed, that we could bring some manufacturing to Fresno. And Fresno seems to be such a joke outside of Fresno, but I would never go back to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I love visiting,
Expensive.
but it's expensive, it's crowded, we have so much to offer in Fresno. And I often think even Fresnans don't realize that. When I got here in 2002, I really thought there's some way they know that I'm new here because everyone was so friendly. Everywhere I go, the grocery store, getting my tires changed, everywhere I go, people talk, people hold the door open for you. People, I thought they know somehow. Well, okay, that's been since 2002, and I find that Fresno is still the friendliest place that I have ever lived. I don't think that I don't think that gets out in the general public. I would like to see the supervisors spend some money on a media campaign that would let the larger part of California know that Fresno is fantastic. We have wide open streets, we have trees, we have friendly people. You can get pretty much anywhere you're going, you know, even if you're going from southeast to northwest within a reasonable amount of time. No bridge fares. I think that we're not even convinced of how wonderful Fresno really is.
Oh yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that too, but I think it comes from within. And I think people like you and I that are proud to live here and love where we live, I think when we start, then I think like a basketball or football team, enthusiasm's contagious. So if we get enough people like us that we're happy to live here, we're proud to live here, and I would agree with you. I was in LA this weekend, a friend of our family got married in LA, and I told my wife, you know, it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't live here.
We all say that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. You know, we were in the hotel, and a man had brown material all over his shirt, and I told my wife, what is that? And she said, honey, he just had a spray tan put on. And I said, oh, man. I said, if he was in Fresno, all he's got to do is lay outside for a few minutes and he'd get his own tan. You wouldn't spend money doing that.
That's right.
So just a different way of life down there.
Even
oh,
today, he
even
could have got
October,
a tan.
yeah. So, yeah, but I said, yeah, it's a nice place to visit, but I like living in Fresno, and I'm proud to be from here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd like to see more people know that. You know, you think of San Francisco, oh, the big city. You think of Oakland, oh, arts and Fresno. We need to brand ourselves.
Well,
more,
maybe when you're like me and you're from the country, the big city is considered Fresno. So our big church.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Fresno.
Yeah, you said that earlier about going to the big city in Fresno, and I
big
thought, oh
city.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I want to talk about, I guess in the few minutes we do, we still have a few more minutes. I want to talk about what do you think your opponent lacks compared to, I mean, you are from, I don't want to, was it okay for me to say? Okay, well.
What are his strengths? What are his strengths versus?
Okay, I'm trying not to.
Yeah,
we know what you meant.
No, in this campaign, I really tried to stay positive and focus on the issues, and I had a lot of mud thrown at me in the primary and even now. And what I want to do is I want to focus on what I can do and what my strengths are. So if I would criticize my opponent in the most politically correct way, I would say the main difference between myself and my opponent is I have a 20-year track record of getting things done. And when you look back at my service on the Kern Unified School Board, or on the bank board, on my service as the Farm Bureau, community regional medical centers, I can look back and when I go door to door and I ask, hey, what has my city councilman done for you over the last 8 years? That's the answer I get. It's just silent. And for me and Kerman, we've built libraries, I built multi-purpose rooms, I strengthened our budget. I'm really, really proud of that. And Community Regional Medical Center, if you would just look back 10 years ago, it was on the verge of financial ruin. UMC, it was really in poor condition. And what we've done over the last 10 years, we have a state-of-the-art trauma facility in downtown Fresno, open for everyone. Irregardless of your ability to pay, irregardless of your status, you walk in there and you are treated like a real person and you get top-level care. So we've stopped a lot of people from leaving the area, and they come in downtown and in Clovis community, and you get the top care, and I'm really proud of that. And in Clovis community, we just spent $300 million, have a new wing in there, we have an education center, developed a whole new program for women's needs. In downtown Fresno, one of the greatest things we have are early childbirths and the preemies and all that. So what we did is develop a neonatal intensive care unit, devoted a whole floor to that, brought in specialists, and now, because the greatest risk is when that baby leaves the mother to be transported. That's the greatest risk of life there. So what we did, we developed our own in-house program to save those babies, and it's been very, very successful. And those are kind of things that go on behind the scenes that the people just don't hear about, but they really help healthcare for everyone in this region. And I'm very proud of the board members that I serve with and the management team, because they have done an excellent, excellent job. And you know, we're the only level 1 trauma from Bakersfield to Sacramento. And I was on the building committee that oversaw all of that. My second year on the board, I was put on the executive committee, and then I was put in charge of the building. I was made the board building chairman. And I looked around and I said, "Really, guys, me?" I said, "You want me?" And they said, "You can do it, Brian." And we did it. And all of our projects were on time and on budget. And we really, really expanded the facilities and the services that we have at Community Regional Medical Center. And I'm very, very proud of that. When we opened up the downtown the day before, the building committee took a tour, and one of the doctors said, "Look up." And I looked up. And I said, "Okay, what's the purpose of that?" He says, "Because if you ever do it again, you're a heart's beat away from dying." He said, "You never want to see that ceiling again." And that was really dramatic for me. And earlier, my wife, late last year, my wife was hit by a drunk driver, and she had to go down to Clovis Community Medical Center. And so we got to see firsthand the care and I was glad that we had those facilities, because you never know. Someone's going to touch your life, and things that out of your control, just driving home from work one night, how our life can change. And our life's been a lot different since that drunk driver hit my wife, to get our family back in order. But I was real fortunate that the hospital system was able to take care of us, and that service is open to anyone in not only the Fresno area, but the region as a whole. That's how good it's become, and what we've done over the last 9 years. And I'm really proud of that fact.
Yeah, I'm glad your wife is okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, she's walking, breathing,
Oh,
and
yeah.
alive.
No, it's
so
good.
God
Yeah.
bless her
Yeah.
on that. And, you know, a lot of people get confused about your party affiliation. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
if it's okay to bring that
Yeah,
up.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And would you care to share?
Sure. I am a registered Democrat.
Okay.
And I have a lot of Republican support, and as well as a lot of Democratic support. The thing that separates me from everyone else is I am a fiscal conservative. Is I know how to manage numbers and do that, and the Democratic Party isn't really known for that.
Right.
So I'm a little bit of an oddity in that fact, but I think that's good, and that's what we need to keep our finances in order. So when they ask, "Why do you stay a Democrat?" I stay a Democrat because I believe we have to help those that can't help themselves, and I'm committed to doing that, and have 20 years of a record to prove that I do that.
We are talking to Brian Pacheco here on Valley Black Talk Radio, 1680 AM. We'll be right back after the break to hear more from Brian. So stay tuned. You are listening to Valley Black Talk Radio here on 1680 AM KGED. Today is October 19th, 2014. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, along with Joel Riversmith and Mel Sanders. And we have our special guest in the studio, Brian Pacheco, who's running for Fresno County Supervisor, Area 1. And we have been getting some enlightening information. I'll say lightning and enlightening, Jewel, right? Lightning and enlightening.
Yes,
You like that?
I agree.
Play on words. See how that works?
That was good.
And so we were leaving off with you explaining your party affiliation. I thought that was very important because sometimes you're mislabeled. So I
Yes,
wanted you to
yeah.
be able to have that opportunity
Thank
to
you.
explain. And so, and Jewel, you had questions about that, and you wanted him to explain further. Yes?
Well, I'm pleased to hear that you're fiscally conservative, because I think oftentimes, I mean, being a Democrat, myself, a heretic. One thing that really frustrates me sometimes is that it's not just a matter of throwing money at things, it's how you do it. I just, for example, I worked at a preschool years ago where there were programs to help parents pay for the cost of the tuition. But the programs were set up so that, for example, they paid for, they just paid a flat rate, right? So if the tuition was $325 and the program paid $400, they just paid $400. Now, of course, that was good for the preschool.
Yes.
That was not good for the, we don't need $400. All we charge is $325. But some system they were using said, well, this is how much we pay. That's not smart.
That's not good government.
You're right.
That's the problem that we have with our government is we accept that, and no one's willing to stand up and say that's not right. And that's what I believe that we need to do. And when I ran for the Kern Unified School Board, I wanted to treat our school district like a business. And it's so tightly government regulated that it's really hard to make those changes. But if you just have an inclination of what you want to do and you have the desire and the will, you can make those things happen. Because we all pay taxes. You know, I pay taxes. I'd like to pay the least amount of possible. But in the return, I want the sheriff to come when I call. I want my roads done nice. And there's an essential amount of public service that we need from our government that we have to pay for. And those that can pay should pay, and those that need help, they're going to get a pass for a while. But the thing is most people want a hand up, not a handout. And we all have pride in who we are, and what we do, and that's what we need to get back to. And we need to do it because everyone, I don't care if it's you, myself, at some point in our life, we all needed help. And I could go back to many, many people who have helped me over my life to help get me where I'm at, and I'm grateful for that. And I want to do in my life, I want to help those so that they can achieve what they want to. And I believe it all starts with education, and that's why I've devoted over a decade of my life to education. But it all gets back to the basics. You got to run your house, and then you run your business, and then you run your government. And we just need more people with some business experience to help run our government and make it run like a business. Because I don't believe you want to pay any more taxes than what you're paying now, and so we need to maximize our tax dollars. Yeah.
I don't know, Jewel, do you?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I don't necessarily want to pay more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, though, as long as I see that it's being managed well and that it's being used for my benefit. You know, I think so often it's I don't want to pay more taxes so that, you know, the Congress people can have free haircuts,
Oh, yes.
or I don't get a free haircut.
Right.
But as long as it's being managed well, as long as I can come out of my house and there's a bus going past every half hour or so, as long as the streets are not full of holes and pockmarked, and as long as I'm getting the benefit for my money, I don't have a problem with taxes.
And I think you are like the average person in America and in Fresno as a whole. And what happened in Kerman is there was no new construction since 1975 when they built our high school. And they put bond after bond on the ballot. But people were like you. They were so tired of inefficient use, they wouldn't vote for it because no one wanted to raise their taxes. So what we did in 2006, after 4 years of being on the board, we put our first bond up because we needed a multi-purpose room at the high school. We needed libraries, we needed new classrooms because Kerman was growing. And by the grace of God, that passed. And what we did is we built what we said we were going to do. We built it on time and on budget. And 2 years later, when we expended all those money, we put a second ballot measure on the ballot, and the voters passed that too because we did in Kerman exactly what you said. We did what we said we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and with the money that we were allocated, and we did it. And so when you start having a track record like that, people will have faith in you. And it was a joke in Kerman, we were like Clovis Unified there for a while because we were just passing bond after bond. But the people, like you said, they're willing to pay if they can see it go to good use.
Exactly.
And a local school bond is one of the greatest things, and I think that's what California's done over the course of the years, is when we say it's for the kids or to help our schools, and we really see those things happening, then we're more willing to pay because we see the public good and all that. And again, it just goes back to everyone needs a little help at some time, but again, we have to spend our tax dollars wisely. And the people, once they have the confidence in you, they will spend the money, just like you said. I mean, I'm willing to pay more if it's going to good use, but I'm tired of frivolous things and what do they have, the $500 hammers and all those kind of unnecessary things, and the people are tired of that. And as a private sector person, I don't like that either, and that's why if I'm fortunate enough to win this office, I want Fresno County to run a good, tight ship, and so people get the maximum amount of their money.
Okay.
I think the next topic I wanted to bring up, because it's also a focus in your campaigning, is looking at the middle class, getting them jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And I see that I'll say I'm a part of the middle class. I feel like we do get skipped over a lot, the most. And could you comment on that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the greatest quotes that I had in my first debate at the Fresno City College. My big quote was, "I want to be known as a job supervisor."
Right.
And I think the middle class jobs is kind of like being the middle child in the family.
Yes, it is.
The oldest gets all the perks, and the baby gets all the attention, and the middle one's left on their own.
Yep.
And I kind of think the middle class
That's what I feel.
is
We're
kind of
left
like
alone.
that. Yeah, the top 1% are getting their mark. The poor are getting taken care of. But what about us that don't qualify for those
Right.
programs that we need a little help?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
so that would be one of my goals as a Fresno County Board of Supervisors, is to take care of those people and to look after that. And how I'm going to do that is, in Kerman Unified, we have one of the most robust vocational education programs in the county of Fresno.
Okay.
So much so that just last week they had the Career Tech Night, because, and the reason for that is because those kids, those students that want to go to college, we do everything we can to do that. But as a board member, I've come to reality, not everyone wants to go to college.
Exactly.
So we need another avenue for those kids that they can get a good paying job and raise a family and take care of their kids. and provide services that the rest of us all need. Because I may be a good farmer and a good dairyman, and I know how to get milk out of a cow, but if my tractor breaks, I need a good qualified mechanic to come do that.
Fix that.
Yeah, or if my wife's car doesn't work, if it's not changing the battery, I need help. Yeah, and there's a huge need for that, and those are highly skilled jobs that you can provide a good economic means for your family. And so those are the things we need to do, is expand vocational education. And like I said, last week, it's the second time that we just had a career tech night, and that was for all those children that maybe don't want to go to college, that there are other avenues out there we can get a good paying job. And I was recruited by the Fresno County Office of Education because of my role in the Kern School District and what we've done out there to help bring some of that area of expertise, as well as my ag background, because what they were lacking in that committee was some ag sectors that they needed to come on. And so I helped to facilitate that. We advertised through the Farm Bureau, the John Deere companies, and all those good paying jobs to help attract more people, to help make that even a more diverse and well-rounded program. And it went very successful last week, and I'm very proud to have served on that committee.
Yay, so the middle class have something to look forward to.
Well, yeah. Now, speaking of the middle class, so I'm going to the third rail here. What about high-speed rail? That would be a good case where I was originally for it, and I'm still for it as a concept, but the price tag has increased ridiculously.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out, so is that just that they didn't plan well? And which is, what I would do. Right? I think, okay, this is just going to cost me $10, and then I forget about the this and the tax and the whatever. So just they didn't plan well, or is it that costs have changed over the years? Because it's, it's a long time from inception to carry out. What is going on there?
Well,
Because I don't want to spend any more money than I need to.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an expert in that area, but what I've seen in the course of my 13 months of campaigning and learning more about the issue, I think it was a good intention that went astray. Okay. And I believe we were sold a bill of goods that really wasn't accurate, because originally it was supposed to be $10 billion, and I think now it's up to $60 billion. So that's a case that we talked about earlier. That's government going way out of control on what we said it was going to be. And they were supposed to go on existing corridors and minimize the impact to ag and all of that. And now they're cutting tracks through farms. And those that don't know farming, is we farm in square blocks. And when you put a railroad track right through the corners of that and make it a triangle, that's a pretty hard and inefficient piece to farm. And no farmer wants to farm that. And so again, I'd like to tell people, I'm not an optimist, I'm not a pessimist, I'm a realist. And I believe that over the course of the last several months, they've exhausted all of their legal remedies, so I believe high-speed rail is coming. Now what is my job as a supervisor is to make sure that we minimize the impacts that that's going to have on agriculture and all of our business communities, because just even a few blocks from our studio here, they've knocked several businesses down. So it's coming. It's coming. And if it does come, which I believe it's coming, then again, it's my role as a supervisor. I'm going to advocate for local jobs, because we need our local people to do that. I don't need people from out of state or other states coming in here. We need our people to put to work and get those good paying jobs that our tax dollars are paying for. So while it may not be the best project and it's a little bit out of control, we're going to have to manage what we have and just simply deal with it.
And so is the idea that, well, obviously it's going to bring jobs to Fresno, but people that are already in Fresno, do we want them to stay here with their work product? Or, because I'm kind of excited about, gee, I could work in Stockton and just catch the train up every day, or I could work in San Francisco, or are we afraid that we're going to lose people here, not in terms of residence, they'll stay here in terms of residence, but they will take their work product somewhere else where perhaps they can make a little more, because of course, the area, you're going to get more pay.
I'm not really sure about that, but maybe the opposite will be true too, is maybe some from the Bay Area will take the train up here and work here and then go back home at night. So I don't really know.
If they come to Fresno, they're going to stay.
Yeah.
And I think I'm more concerned about the jobs, making sure it goes within the community and maybe not outside the community. Because if we're looking at national statistics, we are one of the poorest community, or when we look at the valley, that has to be something to contend with. We should be telling them why those jobs need to stay here.
And especially with the drought, we have to keep those jobs local. Yeah, we have high percentage of the unemployment, and people are out of work, and that would be a good job to go. And I know there's been several things through the faith-based communities that they've been out recruiting people, the local unions to get ready for that, and we need to be ready so that we get our fair share of those tax dollars.
Okay. Now, do we have such a high unemployment rate? Because why do we have such a high unemployment is high and homelessness for that matter in Northern California? Why do we have such a high rate down here? Is it because we don't have as much manufacturing? Is it because we have more people? Is it
Well, I would generally tend to think it would be because of our ag-based economy, and ag is a cyclical business.
Right.
You know, the old farming saying, you got to make hay when the sun shines. So the crops only grow in the spring and the summer, and then after that, it kind of goes dormant. You need less of a workforce. So I think that's why the numbers really
so it's
spike.
a cyclical
They
spike at times. Okay.
Yes. So I would then, because in Fresno, ag is such our dominant economic base, I think that would have a lot to do with it.
Okay.
But we do need, like we said earlier, we do need more diversification of those other jobs. And with the recession over the past several years, housing was down too. And that's another big segment of our working people is this construction and housing. And when they were down with the drought and ag, a combination of the two,
It's
was
a
really,
domino
really
sort of-
bad for our people here. Yeah. But it's turning around. I hear the buildings coming back. You know, if Mother Nature would just rain, coming here, and if we can get Prop 1 to pass and build some more storage, maybe we can turn it around here in a few years.
I know, and I don't think we realize how cyclical things are when we look at how the drought is affecting the farmers, which in turn is affecting our economy, which is in turn affecting even the prices at the store, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the one thing that the drought has really brought to the forefront is when you just thought of a drought and lack of water, people generally thought of farmers. Well, now people realize it's not just the farmers, it's the farm workers. It's all of those people in the cities of Mendota, Fireball, San Joaquin, Tranquility. When the farmer doesn't have that water to produce his crop, the farm worker has nothing to tend to. And all the related service industries, think of all the trucks that are bringing the produce into the big cities and the manufacturing that it goes to. And like now, we just finished raisin harvest, so all the raisins are picked up from the fields, they're hauled to the different dehydrators and raisin packing plants. Think of all of the people that go to making that product, to wash the raisins, put it in the box, package it, ship it, and then the people that pick it up and send it to the ports, that put it out all over the United States and all over the world. All of that magnitude of economic activity that without water and without the crops, we just don't have. So it's not just the farmer and the land anymore, it's the farm worker and everyone else associated with that.
And I think what you just helped me to realize is it's the farmer and all those jobs in between.
Yeah, in between.
That's a big deal, Joel.
You
I've
don't
never
usually
really
think
looked
of
at it that way.
Yeah.
And-
Just think,
Wow.
when you have a tractor and your tire goes
Sure.
flat, the farmer doesn't fix that.
No.
The farmer calls the tire shop man. So the local people at the tire shop come out and fix the tire. And when the tractor breaks, they hire a mechanic. And it's all those service-related jobs that we generally don't think about are all being impacted, and we don't have water to facilitate our farms.
And that's why we have to help people understand why it's so important, maybe not to water your lawn.
Yeah.
Just saying, maybe we do need to cut back and look at the bigger picture here if we're trying to get our economy back on track, looking at just the valley.
And then one of the things that I like to mention, having been the past president of the Farm Bureau, is no farmer wants to rely on groundwater. That is simply a desperate person doing whatever it takes to keep his family and his farm afloat. And that's the product of last resort.
Okay.
When you're desperate, you're going to tap the groundwater because you have no other alternative. But the farms were made here in our valley, like I said, in our desert region, was simply made with surface water. And when you don't have surface water, the only alternative you have is Mother Nature or underground. So I don't believe it's more costly when you pump underground. It's so much cheaper when you have the surface water. And that's what I think some people have missed, is no farmer intentionally wants to pump water from underground in order to survive. But again, desperate people do desperate things, and that's what we're doing this year. The farms are pumping the underground groundwater, and it's not sustainable. Again, I'm a fourth-generation family farmer and been here. I have 3 small children. It's my goal, if one of them chooses, I want one of them to continue the farm. And if they choose to do something else, then that's their choice,
Right.
but at least they had that opportunity.
Sure.
But I don't want my property to be known that we took all the groundwater out of the ground and made it unfertile. No one wants to leave that as a legacy for their children. And so it's in all of our best interest to manage it and to work together and come up with, again, a collaborative approach to this so that we all can live here, so that there's 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10 generations still in the same valley, eating our 350 crops. Yeah.
So, Jewel, does that give you a bigger perspective? I feel like Brighton,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's helping to...
You're right. It's like a web.
It is. Yeah.
There's so many connected things that, yeah, I feel I feel enlightened. So now when I see the commercials and the farmers are saying we need water, I
Now we have a
little more
an
sympathy.
empathy and
Yeah.
I think
More of an
empathy
understanding.
and having an
Exactly.
understanding, because I don't think any of us realize that it really is an effect all the way around.
all the way
Right.
around.
And I want to let people know you
That's
are
for
listening.
city folks. Those
Oh,
of us that
stop
work in
it.
country, we
You know,
recognize that
I
water.
can't hear him, right? Walking.
Your city seconds,
And
yeah.
I know, like my grandfather farmed in Lemoore, and all my uncles grew up, sleeping overnight in the irrigation ditches and all that. But it never occurred to me how many other things that it was connected to, and even ranching, right? Because like my uncle, if he can't get his alfalfa and whatever to feed the cows, yeah, there's a big web there.
You know,
We're all connected.
One of the greatest classes that I took at the University of California, Davis, was Agrarian Studies 2. And what that was a history of agriculture in our nation. And we have to remember, our country was founded off of farming, and everyone farmed. And as we got more advanced and more civilized, it got more concentrated. And what that allowed to do is allowed other peoples to go into the cities and do things. And that's how we have the artists, the musicians, and all of those things, because the population became more efficient, and it let the people, because our first need is we need food, and then we need housing. So if someone's providing your food that you need, that lets you to free up your time to go do something else and to do all those other culturally diverse things and do that. And now we're down to less than 3%, and I'm even 2%, that is producing the food that not only feeds our area here, but our country and the nation as a whole. And so we're getting more removed from the farms, and we just don't understand that. We think when we go to the stores, I did a tour, I try and do tours as much as I can on our facility, as much as our insurance company doesn't like all the liability that we take. But I feel it's my job to help educate the people. And when the little kids come, the number one question is where's the chocolate cow with the chocolate milk? Yeah. And see, and the children, to their credit, they really don't understand that because they're so far removed. But like you said earlier, your grandfather did it, so you had farm experiences. Well, now a lot of the children in the cities today, they don't have that experience anymore, and they just don't know any better. And you just can't learn all that in a book. You got to see it firsthand.
It's just not the same, is it?
And I don't know. Do they go to the, well, I guess in school in the Bay Area, every year we had one field trip that through all the grades where we went to, I think it was Ardenwood Farms, and you'd see how stuff is grown, and you had to touch the soil, and you had to, and we did it every year, and every year I feel like I learned something new, between like 3rd and 6th grade or something like that. I don't know that they do that anymore.
No, and we just concluded the big Fresno Fair, and I was a past board member of the Fresno Fair several years ago, and we did a survey as to what do people like when they come to the fair. You know what?